It's a pleasure and thank you very much for joining us on Beyond the Surface. As usual, this is where we discuss matters of mental health. And this time around, our concentration is on a significant person in this country called a woman. Now, women are people that go through a lot. For us to become what we are, we have been raised by people that have sacrificed, people that have been tormented in the number of areas. But amidst that hardships, they have not given up. What does it take to raise a woman? What can we do to deal with the issues that torment women on a day-to-day basis? Bringing us closer to this discussion is Agnes Kirabo, the Executive Director of Foods Rights Alliance. My name is Fred Makubya, and Madam Agnes, thank you very much for joining us.
Okay, I greet everybody viewing this show. My name is Agnes Kirabo. By the grace of God, I'm the Executive Director for a civil society influencing organization, Food Rights Alliance here in Uganda. I have several responsibilities here and elsewhere in Africa, defending the human right to food. For instance, I'm the chairperson for the Scaling Up Nutrition Civil Society Network here in Uganda. I'm a member of the National Food Systems Coordination Committee, a co-chair for Track 1. I coordinate civil society in East Africa on the issues of the Comprehensive African Agriculture Development Program. I'm a regional president for the African Women in Animal Resources and Agribusiness, which is an African Union initiative. But professionally, consolidating myself as a food systems governance specialist.
So first and foremost, let's begin our discussion. I've heard of people say there are women who are accomplished and there are women who are never accomplished. In your view, who is an accomplished woman?
There is none of such. There is none that fits the definition. Because in the eyes of the viewers, a seemingly accomplished woman is a silent, weeping woman. Many of them are carrying an extra burden to put up that face that you're seeing and characterizing as accomplished. They are undergoing a lot of trouble within themselves, and in many cases, they have nobody to speak to, they have nobody to talk to. So in my opinion, I highly doubt if there is an accomplished woman. If there is, maybe one day when you meet one, but I'm not.
Definitely, if I heard you well, you've said we don't have an accomplished woman. And so if we are to raise one, I want to find out what does it take anyway to raise one woman who can be accomplished?
I think it is understanding what every human being is going through. You see, I'm a product of women emancipation because I'm a CEO, I'm an outspoken, I'm an influencer. I mean, in spaces where I wouldn't expect a woman so many years ago, maybe spaces where my mother was not able to go to. But I know what I'm going through. And I therefore think that we need to understand the extra burdens that the women who we assume are accomplished took on, such that we can create, a shoulder for them to lean on. Let me tell you, as a woman, to give an impression that yes, you can, you have to do 3 times what a man would do for a particular task. Can you imagine? Because that is how the world is judging, but above all, that is also how we are judging ourselves as women. And therefore, in many cases, the higher you go, the fewer are the shoulders for you to lean on. The higher you go, the fewer are the spaces for you to express what you're going through, for you to cry, for you to complain. You see? So for me, I think as we are thinking, in any case, if we are successful one day, to create that accomplished woman, we need to know that the woman, the higher she goes, the more troubled she becomes. And therefore, the support systems need to be stronger as the women go up the ladder. The safety nets have to be stronger as the woman gets higher on the ladder. Then maybe we shall be able to get that fully accomplished woman.
I understand you've mentioned a few things that cause mental imbalance to women. But in details, I would like to find out what are some of the major mental health issues that women globally go through on a daily basis.
I think I can talk about two categories of women. I was a very loved child, maybe. Anyway, I was a sickly child from birth. So I used to be very close to my mother while growing up, very close to her than even the younger siblings of mine. And there are so many things she was going through that I have only tried to understand. And many of them I can't understand. And unfortunately, when you ask her about them, she's not willing to talk about them. But I recall my mother would sit by the side of her kitchen, weaving her basket, and tears flow down her cheeks. And as a child, you know, the child would think that a person can only cry if she or he has been beaten. And we are in an environment where nobody has beaten her, but the tears are flowing down her cheeks, which I have understood that she was dealing with quite so many things. She had lost her career path to settle in her marriage. The marriage maybe was not giving her what she was expecting, but she had given birth to children, including myself. My father was a relatively, to be diplomatic, a very violent man. He could not drink, but I don't know what would happen if he would drink. He wasn't drinking, but he was violent. And here is a young girl who is now my mother, raised as a princess, but now in this very emotional, abusive marriage with children. She has no alternative to a livelihood. She has to endure all what she was going through. And I believe these are some of the things that were causing her to cry. Every woman has a dream, just like any other human being. And every human being dreams for the best in their lives. And if they see the candles blowing out one by one, and their life path becoming darker and darker, and nobody can understand them, nobody can hear them out, they're dealing with a lot of controversies. For me, I believe, I don't know whether it was by luck, my mother never got mentally ill, but she got hypertension. But I also believe that in certain incidences in life, she would also get mentally sick. Because there are cases she would be so quarrelsome, you know, shouting at you, you know, throwing you all over the place, and your children, and after throwing you away, then she comes and collects you and then consoles you. What would make such a person behave like that, if not an incidence of bit of mental health? So for me, if you live in contradiction between what you expected to be and what exactly you are, and you seem not to see a light at the end of the tunnel, I believe my mother is not alone. There are so many women of that nature. Now here comes her daughter, myself. A daughter who can take over the podium, and then everybody says, I think she's right. I think we need to do something as an influencer. But what have I paid Or what do I continue to pay to be who I am? What have I sacrificed to be who I am? The kind of hours that I have to work 3 times on a particular task, more than a man would do, to let the world believe that yes, I think she was the suitable ED for this particular organization. The effort we put in only to be listed on a panel of an international conference, spend a whole night, because everybody is going to judge you, including yourself. We are never satisfied that what we have given is the best. You get so depressed because there is quite a lot you have sacrificed, you haven't accomplished in life. Life has a prototype. After this, then this, after this, then this, after this, then this. And if you miss any of those stages in the passage of life, society is judging you. And even because you were groomed from the same society, you equally judge yourself. So most women who seem to be at this other level where I am and beyond, their day is not 24 hours. Their week is not 7 days. Their year is not 12 months. We have imaginary time that we create to put before the public what the public is seeing. And that dawns on our emotional strength, that dawns on our physical strength, and that dawns on our health abilities. And at the end of the day, we go back to square zero.
We can't keep lamenting over issues we have control about. I'd like to find out, Madam Agnes, what you think are some of the skills any woman here or out there would require to confront and deal with matters of mental issues in their lives.
You have to define your own trajectory, which is not very easy. Forgetting what you were groomed through as a woman, as an African woman. You know, society grooms us as girls into women. So trying to escape that theory, to craft your own trajectory, it's a very difficult balance and a delicate balance. But for me, I believe that, and by the way, I have learned the hard way. I've had the hard way. I got so sick, not even sick, I got ill. I lost my organs. It has taken me more than 5 years and I've not yet fully recovered. So I'm living on second chance. And I think I need to speak to the women that have not gotten to where I am. Not to get, because you may not be lucky to have the second chance. And this is what I'm learning. Number one, you have to define your own trajectory with clear indicators of success in your own definition, within your own abilities. That's number one. Celebrate them. Every single accomplishment you make, celebrate. Give yourself a pat on the back and say, Agnes, you're wonderful, you're great, you have done it. Celebrate yourself. Because for all the years before I fell ill, every time I was focusing on what I have not been able to do as opposed to celebrating what I have been able to do. I was working on other people's trajectories as opposed to my personal trajectories. So please, fellow women and men out there, encourage the women in your lives to define their own trajectory and also encourage them to celebrate it. Number two, segment your life, segment your feelings, segment your emotions, segment your mind. There must be the inner segment called you. I am here, but in as far as my mind is concerned, there is a segment called Agnes Kirabo. In as far as my feelings are concerned, there is a segment called Agnes Kirabo. and so my emotions. And once something or somebody encroaches that segment, it is the inner next to me and myself. If anything, somebody, something encroaches that segment, I say, please, please, because that is me. If you do not do that, everything comes and goes through you and leaves you torn in your mind, in your emotions, in your feelings, totally torn. So I encourage people, and these are things that we have to self-teach ourselves, that you must have a segment called you. And when you get to that segment, you only keep in the good things about you. You hibernate into that segment of your life. And once I hibernate into that segment of my life, I cannot cry, I don't care, I go to sleep, I dream, I don't wake up to think about anything, I always hibernate into myself. And this is where I pick my strength, this is where I pick my courage, this is where I pick my joy. And I believe it is that segment of my life that once I lose it, then I have lost my life. That's the second thing. The third thing, recruit the CEO of your life. Recruit a CEO of your life. And from time to time, engage in a staff meeting between you and the CEO of your life. Engage in a staff meeting. Go into a quiet place. Sit with your CEO. And then you reflect. And the CEO of your life must be bold enough to call you Agnes Kirabo, and then you respond. Was it worth? You evaluate. So if you find me quiet, please don't think I'm quiet, don't think I'm not busy. I might have been in a staff meeting between me and the CEO of my life. Because we always hold meetings between me and myself. And evaluate how we are managing life and how we have succeeded and perhaps what we need to do. If you don't recruit that CEO of your life, you're going to recruit a human being who you may not 100% trust, or even who is not going to give you 100% of his or her time. And then you get frustrated and depressed. My CEO of my life does not disappoint. It is me and myself. But we always sit regularly and have conversations. So for me, those 3 tenets have given me the strength to move on. And perhaps 2 other things is family. You know, your family shall always be your family. Whether it is a family of drunkards or whether it is what, the fact that you're all going to be buried in the same graveyard, they are better than the flying birds in this world. Let us create time for our family. If you still have your parents, please bond with your parents, bond with your family members, bond with your siblings. Some of us, we have been working. The best thing we can do for our parents is maybe calling them once in a while. We send them pocket change. You don't have time to sit with your parents. You don't have time to sit with your family. You don't care. They are in hospital, you're busy. They are wedding, you're busy. They are what? You're busy. Hey, man, woman, bond with your family. And then, above it all, your God. I do not care what your religion is, whatever you believe in, build a strong relationship with your God. Congregate with your God first, not with your brethrens. Many of them are liars, and you're going to get back into depression again. But build a strong relationship with your God. Let your God understand you. let you understand your God. I'm telling you, when things become so hard, you go back to your Creator and say, Lord, create a way where there seems to be no way. And you're going to feel that hand of your Lord leading you through. You'll have a space to breathe.
If I heard you well, you've rightly said you usually have one-on-one meetings with yourself. Would I actually be wrong, or would I be right to conclude that you are mentally unstable?
Nope. It is not. I have decided to speak to myself and reflect. And reflect. And ask myself simple and hard questions. I'm telling you, these are not hallucinations I'm talking about. No. It is about you sit and reflect. Was it the right response I gave? Fred? Wouldn't it say better? Wouldn't I say better? Let me tell you, you cannot run a marathon in life. It is not a mental illness. No, I'm sober. But I'm putting aside time and space to reflect. And it is very important. By the way, people who don't sit themselves in meetings have become a menace in society. They go harassing everyone. They say whatever they want to say. Let me tell you, even my mother raised us saying, you must have the maternal aunt, senga w'omutima gwo. You must have a senga w'omutima gwo who holds you back and asks you some questions and validates your decisions. If you were quarrelsome, you're going to say that quietly, you change. If you were abusive, you're going to say that quietly. People say, these days, Kirabo changed. If you were not supportive to others, out of those meetings, you reflect on your behavior within society. Because let me tell you, some people are finding themselves in conflict after conflict. And all the time they claim it is another party who is giving them trouble. It is because they have not sat themselves down to say, but why is it me conflicting with Johnny, with Sarah, with Theo, with a neighbor, with a priest, with a what? You are always the one conflicting. And let me tell you, the change must be intrinsic. You must reflect on your life, on your behavior, on your actions. And your heart, your conscience will never lie to you. It will tell you that for this person, I think that was not the right response. What if you had kept quiet? There are even cases where you say, tomorrow I'm going to go for him. He will see me. But in the meeting, your conscience is going to tell you, you don't need to go there. People who do not sit, who do not recruit CEOs of their lives, they just go quara, and conflict with everybody. You find them breaking down to say this whole village is against me. But how can a whole village be against you? So my dear, I'm not mentally disturbed. I don't believe I am. Much as they say, those who are mentally sick will never believe that they are sick, but I believe I'm not. It has changed me quite a lot. And let me tell you, even the physicians are surprised that I regained my organs. It's because I did a lot of internal reflection on my behavior, on my actions, on how I do things and all that.
I would like to find out, Madam Agnes, what keeps you moving on a day-to-day basis?
I think it is about how I was raised. When we were growing up, if our mother would find you lying by the veranda or somewhere during the day, she would ask you, Madam, what's the problem? Are you sick? And you say, I'm resting. Say, now, we only have a few hours of work. What will you be doing at night? Perhaps what will you say, I'm sleeping. What will you be doing when you're dead? you're going to have a whole eternity of sleeping. So madam, stand up and look for what to do. The second thing she told us while she relentlessly told us while we are growing up is that whoever has not accomplished does not retire. That is why when we are dead, they sing Amazomochi Omolimo Gwe. So my dear, when you're still on this planet Earth, you know people are not going to listen to the reason why you didn't do, because you didn't die. That the only fundamental excuse people would believe that you were actually unable to do is when you died. But these are the excuses, you see, people seem to understand them, but not fully understanding them. So the way how my mother groomed me to work, it keeps me going all the time, because I believe in eternity there will be no work, we shall be sleeping.
And maybe the second thing which I want to find out is what informs your perception and attitude towards life?
It is about how people viewed me. You get it? How the people's perceptions about me shape my perceptions and attitudes. I don't know, for some reason, and I thank them, by the way. For some reason, people all the time think I cannot. Even when I was coming to provide leadership to FRA, there are people who are saying, that is not the person fit for that purpose. Even when I reflect when I was in school, they could not bring a new song and immediately give it to me to lead it, but I ended up leading them. So people's perceptions about me shape my perceptions and attitudes, because I would disapprove you.
And thirdly, I would like to know how best do you approach the problems, the challenges, the tragedies that you encounter on a day-to-day basis?
I approach problems by first taking personal responsibility. If a problem is in a form of a conflict, I first take personal responsibility. What was my contribution? It takes to entangle. And for me, that has helped me to deal with a multitude of conflicts. Because the problem is me. And if you must change in life, don't labor to change others. Labor to change yourself, because you know yourself better. Then you're going to blend well with people. For these other problems, as a Christian, I believe that God gave us divine power. And even my mother raised us telling us, "Ekitayogera tekirema ayogera." A problem doesn't speak. You speak, you have hands, you have legs, you have a brain. The problem is just there quiet. So how can you fail to solve it? So that's the attitude I have about problems. There is no problem that is bigger than human nature. It is about our attitudes and the approaches towards the problems. The moment you believe a problem has become bigger than you, you're not going to confront it.
And as we come to the very end of this informative interview, very educative, I would like to find out your approach on how we think we can approach mental health issues in this country.
I think I'm still convinced, just like Dr. Okello oriented me. Dr. Okello is a renowned psychiatry lecturer. I don't know whether now he's professor. So many years ago he was doctor of Gulu University. He's the one who introduced me to the field of mental health. And Dr. Okello convinced me that mental illness is one of the easiest illness to treat clinically. But the only challenge that we have in our societies is the stigma around mental illness. There are two challenges. Number one is the stigma, but also number two is that our levels of consciousness regarding mental illness are very low across the board. Because the challenge with mental illness, the patient is not capable of knowing that he or she is sick. And yet with other illnesses, it starts with you, the patient, to say, I'm not feeling well, I have a headache. Then everybody around you comes with a solution. With mental health, the patient is not capable of doing that. Actually, the patient believes that everybody around you is sick, except yourself. And yet, our society's levels of consciousness to detect mental illnesses are very low, and in many cases, I'm being kind, totally absent. So by the time it is established that I'm actually sick, it is when I have crossed the lines to psychotic, which is the worst. But if society was able to detect and then help the patient or help the sick person get out of this stimulating environment, create a better environment for this person to go find himself or herself, mental health would be a very easy thing to deal with. But it is very difficult to detect. People just say, these days, Kirabo is emotional. You know, we know her. She's always like that. So it takes so long to detect that I'm not well. But the worst thing comes when it has been detected that I'm not well. It is the stigma. People can live with any patient of any illness, even cancer. They can come out proudly and say, X has been diagnosed with cancer, with hypertension, with whatever, mention any form of illness. But somebody cannot come out publicly and say, my daughter, my husband, my wife, my whatever, has been detected or has been diagnosed with mental illness. That is a stigma. People think that when you get mental illness, you're useless, that is the end of life, nobody should associate with you, you should be discarded, you're nuisance, you're what, which is necessarily not true. For me, if we deal with those two, raising the levels of consciousness for the people around us, everybody, to be a bit more conscious to detect that this person is getting sick, and then that person is taken to receive medical attention. And in many cases, I have helped so many people. And when they meet the psychiatrist, going through the session, they say, Fred, we have understood the problem. It is not yet time to start medication. And I have seen those people getting back on their feet, running. But many of us get into the states of mental illness and we find ourselves out. Many of us, we get in and get out. There is no support system to help us. And yet people even know how to detect the temperature if you have malaria. Even people can ask you what part of the headache is aching. This could be this. You know, the stomach upset and all that. The patient and the people, their support mechanisms. They are limited support mechanisms for mental health. And I'm here to tell people 3 things. Number 1, mental illness is just like a flu, fever. It is not anything hard as we think. Number 2, we have all been sick at one moment in time in our lives. We have only been lucky, if at all we are truly lucky, that we went into the sickness and got out by ourselves. Some of us, we have never gotten out anyway. Number 3, being mentally sick doesn't mean that you will permanently be sick. It is like last year, you had a COVID, or the other year. Today you are in office working. Or you had a malaria last week, and today you're back in office working. You're part of the community. Please stop stigmatizing. Stop. Because as you're stigmatizing others, the next in queue is yourself.
Your parting shot, Madam Agnes Kirabo, as we draw towards the end of this very important and significant interview on matters regarding women in relation to mental health.
I think what I could conclude with is that we need to move very fast to support the accomplished women, because we are going to lose them. We have created more trouble than the trouble our great-grandmothers had, who we thought they were behind there. So we need to move very, very fast, design programs, come up with the support systems for these women. These women are dying in silence. They are crying in cover. They are doing too much to impress everybody, including themselves. So, it is our duty, it is our responsibility. It is very bad to soak your garment, wash it properly well, and when it comes to drying it, you lay it on the ground. That's what we are doing to the women that we are pushing up or pushing to the front.
Thank you very much for sparing time to speak to us, not on matters of food this time round, but on matters regarding mental health, especially in relation to women. She is Agnes Kirabo, the Executive Director of Foods Rights Alliance, bringing us to speed on matters of mental health. And I for sure know that this interview has not just been an ordinary interview. It's been an interview that is educative. It's been an interview that is informative. It's been an interview that catches your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, which I think that is entirely what mental health is about. I want to ask you and appeal to everybody to treat mental health as a matter of life. This has been Beyond the Surface, and my name is Fred Makuya.